Hey YouTube and fellow first generation Heritage Series Supercrew owners. So I'm making this video, the other day I made a video for the tow mirrors on the Supercrew. It was a big struggle to try to track something down that was going to work for me, and I worked that out. So you can look at some of my other videos and see if that's something you can use. But today I'm taking a look at the Dee Zee tailgate kit, tailgate assist kit, and you guys I'm sure are very familiar with them already. And I looked around. I ordered one because the eBay site I went to said it worked for the Supercrew model, but in fact it doesn't. It's not designed for that. And then I got on the phone with Dee Zee, and they said that the Supercrew model was not in the scope of intention for this kit, and in fact they don't make a kit specifically for the Supercrew, and they don't intend to. Apparently our market, especially for the older Supercrews, isn't important enough to them to modify an existing kit to make this work. But I think you can still make this kit work. So this part number, which is designed for the F150 series, this says from 97 to 03, and Super Duties from 99 to 13. But I think this will work, and we'll know by the end of the video if this will work. So let me show you what I plan on doing and why I made the choices I did, and hopefully it'll turn out to all of our benefit. Okay, so here again is the kit. I'm sorry, I'm filming this with my tablet, so I'm kind of limited on, well, basically the overall quality. But so here's the Dee Zee kit that I bought, and the components that come with it. Of course, you get the assist cylinder. You get a threaded mount that is supposed to slide into an already existing hole in the side of the tailgate, which is not there, and I'll talk to you about that more. And then this is the pivot lug that the piston, the lower portion of the piston, or the tailgate section of the piston, attaches to. And this plate here is supposed to mount on, let's see here, it's supposed to mount on this lower assembly, which is for the cable retainer that basically keeps your tailgate from being overloaded. It holds it, in a secure position, horizontal position. Don't make the mistake of trying to put it on here like I did. That was a knucklehead move. I wasn't paying attention to the instructions. Instructions? Who needs instructions, right? Well, especially if the part's not made for your truck. Instructions are kind of useless. But anyway, so what I've decided to do, originally, like I said, the design calls for this expanding thread assembly to be inserted into a pre-existing hole in the tailgate. Well, there's not a pre-existing hole, so in order to make this work, I'm going to have to drill in here and then insert this, and then from there, when that's completed, I screw this in, and that becomes the lower attachment point. And then up top, where I'm supposed to install this plate onto this assembly, the geometry is all wrong. The length of it is all wrong, and that won't work. So as you can see, I've already started to drill a hole in this plate, and my plan is basically to replace this hole with this hole, and then trim this bracket shorter so that when the plate fits in, it fits in back like this. So you want this pivot point to be back behind the original cable retaining lug, as far back against the back of the assembly as possible, because the piston needs to operate back behind this point. If it ever tries to extend past here, then the cable interferes with it, and that interference is going to kink the piston and cause you nothing but havoc. So so this plate needs to be modified to fit back here. So again, I'll be drilling that out to the appropriate size and then trimming the excess. You don't have to, I suppose you can just leave it extended back there, but I'll trim it, and then that will become the rear pivot point. Now the two things that you need to remember with this assembly is you're limited by the piston travel. So the distance between the upper and lower lug when the piston's when the tailgate's in the closed position can't be less than the distance between the upper and lower attachment points on the piston. So here to here, and I think I measured that out at 7 inches, but whatever it turns out to be, when the tailgate's in the closed position, the two mounting balls, these two swivel points, cannot be any closer than the minimum distance on the piston, or the gate won't close, so you'll overly compress the piston and damage it, and it won't work for very long. Nor can the distance between those two mounting balls be longer than the piston's extended travel when the tailgate's in the down position, or the tailgate won't lower entirely like it's supposed to. So you've got to keep those two factors in mind. So the reason that I made the choice to drill the hole here was one, because the original instructions show that, but this attachment point is further up on the tailgate that this was actually intended for. So the hole was a little further in distance, but this is what we're stuck to working with, and so I'm going to drill a hole as close to this point as possible, set that mount in there the way it's intended to be. There's just enough clearance, and at least according to my initial measurements, when the installation's done I'll know for sure, but so you want it as close to this as you can get it while still not letting it make contact with this, because that'll cause wear and tear that's unnecessary. And if we mount this plate up here, you will have the ability to articulate this a little bit to make adjustments for the proper piston travel. But remember, this point, this attachment point, always needs to remain back behind this lug here for the cable, because otherwise when the cable comes in and it pivots as it does under normal operation, if you get too close, then the cable assembly is going to make contact with that piston and cause damage, and you won't be happy. So that's pretty much it for the explanation. Sorry about the lengthy explanation. I'll complete the work and show you how it turns out. Okay, so here I have taken the brass fitting that they give you. It's designed to be inserted into a hole, and then you hold the Allen nut or the Allen screw steady while you run the nut in, and that compresses the length of the stem and causes the nut to be wedged in here, and it becomes something you can then thread this assembly into. So I chose a location. There are two spot welds on this plate right here, one here and one just beneath it here. So I chose a neutral location right between the two because I didn't want to disturb those welded supports, and then punched a hole in there appropriate to the size, tapped this in, and then compressed it per the instructions to create a threaded internal nut that I'll be able to attach this to. So now that I've done that, I'll keep going. We'll see what's next. Okay, so here's the completed unit. Now, for the sake of time, I didn't go ahead and trim off the rest of that bracket like I said I was going to. I will, but I just left this on just so that I could get this tested to see if it would work. So again, I measured in, I think it was 1.5 inches from the back edge of the bracket, but drilled a hole, centered in here, and mounted this, and then set this pivot point even with the height with the lug, and up against this as far as it could go. And then down here in the door, I essentially I drilled this hole as close to this assembly as I could, because the further you go in this direction, the more leverage you put on this piston and the faster the tailgate's going to drop, because you're going to put more torque on that and overcome the piston easier. So I needed to stay as far out as possible to allow the tailgate to come down at a reasonable rate. So that's the location I chose, and I tried to avoid the existing tack welds that the factory used to mount this bracket. But let me go ahead and show you that it works and how it works. Again, the cable's on, and there's no interference there whatsoever. So we close the tailgate, closes up, no problems at all. It doesn't bind or interfere, and there's no noise. And pop the tailgate, and it comes down. Now, could it come down slower? Not from my application. I can't extend that piston out any further than I already have, so that's my limitation. Not much else I can do about that, but I'm still very happy with the results. So it comes down without a thump, and it does what it's intended to do. So that's the installation of the Dee Zee unit. Okay, so that was it. That was the installation. Hopefully I covered, explained everything that's necessary for you to carry it over to your vehicle. And I looked on YouTube. I couldn't find anybody who did a video for this, so I thought it would benefit you. I know these vehicles are getting, they're 12 years old now, so the newest ones are 12 years old. So if you've got that first generation, that Heritage generation Supercrew, and you've been wanting to install one of these tailgate assists, that's how it's done. I'm real happy with it. Looking back at it now, I don't really see a different way, or at least a better way that I could have done it. But I'm sure some of you smart folks out there have some ideas. So feel free to make a video or share in the comments, that kind of thing, because there's always room for improvement. This is the kit I used. And I even went down to the local O'Reilly's checker and pulled one of their kits. I liked their mounting brackets. They were a little shallower, so they kept everything. Well, I liked their mounting brackets a little bit better, but they were essentially the same. Just they were designed a little more shallow, so they didn't protrude into the available space nearly as much. But as tight as things are, they're still not making any contact or rubbing, so I can't really complain. But their piston was longer, and that, for my application, would have been a problem, because then I would have had to raise the mounting point or come off on a steeper angle into the tailgate. It just wasn't working for me. So Dee Zee's model does work for your Heritage first generation Supercrews. Feel free to give that a try. Hopefully somebody at Dee Zee decides to share this, but when I called them this morning, they were not interested in suggesting that you drill anything. So they're probably not going to say go ahead and use this, but I'm saying you can go ahead and use this for what it's worth. So that's it. I'll be doing more, and as I do, I'll pass it on. Thanks, guys. Bye.